Who are you, first of all?
My name's Nik Cubrilovic, and I work for TechCrunch.
Yeah.
I'm the tech in TechCrunch.
You're the tech?
I'm the tech, and Mike's the crunch.
Ooh. Mike is threatening to come out here and crunch both of us, but so we'll see how far into this interview we get before Mike comes out here and distracts us both.
And destroys the cameras and puts an end to all this nonsense.
This is, so we're out here on the patio of TechCrunch.
Yeah, we're in Palo Alto, California at the TechCrunch office. We've been here for a little over 6 months. This is the first real office that we had. We worked out of a house for the first 3.5 years. And I think most people have been through that house at some point or another. I think
a lot of people in the valley.
Yeah, half of Silicon Valley has been through that house. And so, you know, we're all. It took a bit of adjustment to be in a real office, but you know, we're getting used to it. It's pretty cool.
So at TechCrunch 50, you and I were talking because you guys just moved over to Rackspace, and this isn't. Hopefully, it doesn't turn into a Rackspace commercial, or hopefully it does.
Oh, you're from Rackspace.
Yeah.
Oh wow, what a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
Because we just happened to switch over to Rackspace, well, the backstory is that, you know, TechCrunch has been growing rapidly, you know, since its inception.
Yeah.
At the outset, it was from a technology perspective, it was pretty simple to keep the blog running. And just through our conversations in the past couple of months, you know, we approached you and a number of other companies, and we sort of needed to take a sort of next step based on our traffic levels as they are now, and also our future plans in terms of where we're heading with the development of the content network and the blogs and so forth.
A lot of people think TechCrunch is just Mike Arrington, right? But it's a lot bigger than that now.
There are a large number of people, both behind the scenes and writers as well, that keep the blog running, keep content up. And I think it's easy to not appreciate what it takes to keep something like TechCrunch not only running, but to keep the growth rate continuing, to, you know, keep the site alive and so forth. The entire company depends on the website being up. It's the entire business model. So from a technology perspective, there's a lot more involved than what probably some people would think is involved. You know, we've got over a dozen blogs. You know, we have Crunchbase now. We have a number of different other properties.
And Crunchbase isn't even a blog; it's a database that anybody can add into, and that's becoming more. Mike and I were talking yesterday. He said that's becoming more and more important to TechCrunch's business.
We found that we were constantly going to old posts to try and find reference data, or we were searching other sites, and a lot of this just simply wasn't online. It wasn't sorted or structured in any way. So the idea behind Crunchbase was to, you know, find a way to get all this data into one place and then open it up to everybody. And what we're seeing is that we've been really good about getting data into the database. So we've got a huge data set now, and some of the statistics that come out of that, such as the quarterly reports, have become like a really good indicator of the overall startup environment, such as how much money is being raised, you know, which VCs are raising money, how many new startups are being founded. And I think it's because it's established itself as a sort of de facto place where the startup community and the sort of tech community goes to find data. I mean, we're surprised sometimes by, you know, some people that have never read TechCrunch before, such as, you know, Wall Street people, who, you know, they email us and say, oh, you know, they see Crunchbase first and then they find TechCrunch, and then they'll email us like, oh, you know, could you add this or that feature to Crunchbase, because we're using it to do our, you know, analysis reports for you know, Silicon Valley related or tech related companies. So it's become a thing on its own, which is really interesting.
And I like it. I think it's a brilliant thing to do. And you also have the conference, right? TechCrunch 50.
We're doing so many different things at the moment.
And you have TechCrunch IT and Crunch
There's
Gear.
the content blogs, there's Crunchbase, there's the conferences, the other events, the parties. We've got the Crunchpad as well.
And all this is running on one little Mac Mini in the corner, right?
Yeah, it's all running over here. So just watch that cord, by the way. You don't want to take down all our servers. And so, you know, we've got, you know, 3 different environments that we run on top of. With things like the conference, you've got unique situations where you have a website that the traffic sort of spikes. We need to be able to handle that. And so there's a bit of complexity there to the technology in terms of having all these different environments. For instance, Crunchbase is a Rails application with a really large database. All the blogs are hosted on WordPress. And then we've got various other applications that run in the background in different environments as well. And so because of the way the business grew, this was all sort of built in an ad hoc basis.
Yeah.
And it was only recently that we sort of took a step back and reevaluated both hosting environments and the way that we build our technology, and come up with.
Is it all on servers, or are you using cloud technology?
Oh, we're in the cloud, man. Yeah.
All in the cloud?
Yeah. Most of it is in what you would refer to as the cloud. Okay. And so to give you an idea,
Rackspace Cloud. Yeah.
Rackspace Cloud. Sorry.
Yeah.
To give you an idea, maintain the level of maintenance that's required between running individual servers. What we had before was each blog would be on one server. And so, for instance, we got to the point of where we had like 15 servers or something like that.
Yeah.
The level of administration was actually really high. It was almost like one full-time person just to administer those servers.
Yeah.
So if an update would come out or something like that, it would take us, it would take time
hours
to go through each server and to maintain it and keep passwords synchronized and what version is this running, what version is that running. And one of the benefits of moving this to the cloud, and it wasn't a decision taken lightly. We sort of sat down and evaluated everything. Is that we click a button and fire up an instance. We just copy the files there, and that's it. And the site just runs. And not only is it running, but it's running a lot faster. The uptime's great, and it's saved us a ton of administration time on our end. It's just made a really big difference.
The content business is also very spiky, right? If you break a major story, your traffic will go way up, and that spiky traffic is great for cloud, right? Because you can spin up if you're getting hit by a bunch of traffic. If you got on Oprah's show or something like that, you can spin up a whole bunch more resources.
Yeah, that's always been a problem with blog hosting, is that it's very simple to host a simple blog with a flat level of traffic, but you see this everywhere. Articles on how to survive the Slashdot effect, how to survive the dig effect.
Well, now it's the TechCrunch
how
effect.
to survive the TechCrunch effect.
Yeah.
And we see it on our side as well. We see both through different time zones on a normal day, and then if there's a story that comes out and it grabs mainstream attention and that traffic is coming back to TechCrunch, we can't predict that. And we can't say, oh, tomorrow we're going to expect 3 million hits. And so having an infrastructure that's elastic, that can just grow out and without us even noticing, without us even having to worry about it, it just makes a huge difference. Whereas before, you would purchase the second, third, fourth server just in case, and you'd have to pay for them continuously. Now you can be like, well, here's my baseline. It's good to know that I can grow 10x that, 20x that, and not have to pay for that entire slice, except for when I'm using it. Yeah. And it's a completely different model around how you host a website and around servers.
When we met each other at the TechCrunch 50 conference, you said the site had far better performance. Give me a sense of what happened on your charts when you switched over from another host to Rackspace.
The effect was such that when we switched the site over for people internally and we didn't tell them about it, everybody asked what was going on because they noticed the site was so much faster. The key thing is that you reach a technical problem when you're trying to scale a site out beyond a single physical server. So what we had previously was a setup where we split the sites up on physical servers. The problem with that is that you quickly reach limitations on how much bandwidth you can serve back out and processing power. What we were seeing is that with an increase in traffic, you only had a set level of computing performance or a set level of bandwidth. And so it would start dividing that up amongst the visitors that you had. And so there was a proportional decrease in performance with an increase in traffic. Whereas now, you've sort of got the ideal performance level for everybody that visits the site, because it just scales out, and we haven't hit an upper limit of that yet. I mean, we're seeing the same performance as what you'd have with one person hitting the site and loading the page. You would get with the millionth person at the same time hitting that page, and for us, I mean, it's freed us up to be able to work on other more important things. We sort of can take that problem and give it to somebody else.
You also told me the traffic went up?
Yeah, so one thing that you notice is that with faster loading pages, you get more page views.
Yeah.
You get more page views per visitor, and you get, in turn, you get more page views, you get more traffic. And so we knew...
Because people don't hit stop on the browser or back, this page isn't loading for me.
Yeah, and we're now so impatient because we expect everything to work so quickly. And so when you bring the website up that's loading faster, and it's still not as fast as what we would like it to be, but people are more likely to click through to read down to the bottom of the page and so forth. So traffic literally went up like 10-20% within a couple of days, almost overnight. And so that's had a big effect as well. And now it just comes down to watching those numbers and tuning on our end, to make that even better. But these are things that, if you want to do it on your own, it's going to take hiring at least 1 or 2 guys just to look after servers and just to come up with a way to be able to scale this out for you. The solution of outsourcing it to somebody, just what the cloud's all about, is just makes a huge difference for us. I mean, we don't have to be a networking company or a server company. We give that to somebody else to do.
Do you have any tips for other people who might be looking at hosting? Anything that you need to consider before you make a major move like this?
The couple of things that we learned through the process are that with cloud computing and with virtualization, which is the underlying technology that's enabled all this, is that with control panels, we look at a control panel, we click buttons and bring up servers. It's allowed us to have a more methodical development and staging environment where we can test things before switching over. And so one of the important things that we did in the week leading up to the switchover was to set sites up, to test them out, to do a bit of load testing on it. And you can literally bring servers up and tear them down and try different things out. If you were to do that in a real world application, it would take you 20 times longer.
Yeah.
So in the development and staging leading up to a site going live, you can afford to bring servers up, try different things, and then see what works and what doesn't. One of the big things that we thought would be an issue was not having shell access to a server. And it's because we're all ingrained as Unix guys to be able to have control at that level. And I think that was more of a psychological barrier, because we realized very quickly afterwards that the way that the server environment works and with the features that you get through the control panel, that removing the need to have shell access is actually 100 times better than having to need it, because every time we were logging in before, it was always to fix something.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas now that's taken care of. And so the things that we learned were how to take advantage essentially of this new technology.
Yeah.
And so things like we can have TechCrunch.com, we can make an entire copy of that server and just have it as a warm backup. I mean, it's just great. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where to do that, would involve consultants and plans and manuals and double your price on everything and have this running. Whereas today it's like click a button, make a copy. If something goes wrong, revert back, go back to this other version, switch the DNS over to the warm backup you have. It's a completely different way of hosting technology from the perspective of a business like ours.
Interesting. Tell me, have you used any of the support features yet? I mean, have you called it, at 3 in the morning because you're having trouble doing something, or a server's down or something? Or?
So what's interesting is that most technology people like to have control, and so crossing that barrier where you let somebody else do something is a thing to get over. And when we do have questions or some sort of issue, we're used to going in and doing it ourselves. either a developer or something else. The way that it works with Rackspace now is that in that same control panel, you click a button and somebody pops up. And what you're normally used to is for that person to be a complete idiot, essentially, where you'd have to basically dictate what to do or whatever. Now that talent's been centralized on that end, and there are smart people there 24 hours a day.
Yep.
They tell us, oh, we just did this. It's very more proactive, and when something does come up, it's almost like 2 words like, oh, this, that, and fixed. And it's completely different. It only took 24 hours to reach a point of comfort, knowing that not only are there smart people at the other end, but they're actually being proactive and they actually care about keeping the site live and monitoring things. Because in most situations, the reason why you have that barrier to wanting to give that work to somebody else is because you think, well, their incentive for giving a shit about our site is pretty low. Whereas with more professional companies, they're sort of they're aligned with your business interests. And in this process of trying to find who our technology partner is going to be, that was a big part of it. It was like, how much do they understand our business? A good test is, when you're talking to a salesperson, how many questions are they going to ask you about, what's important to your business? Usually the process is, give me this, 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 and that, like specs, and they'll give you, dollar numbers. Whereas, with the companies that truly understand how to take that part of your business away from you, will sit down and try and get a bigger picture feel. They'll ask you about, what your, business model is, and they'll really try and, become part of your company and understand how things work. And so that aligns the interest of your technology partner with yourself. And you no longer have that problem of oh, these guys, I'm just 1 in 100,000 with them. If something happens, it's up to me to take care of it. And I think that's only a very recent phenomenon where for big companies used to be able to work, but now for even smaller companies that can work as well.
We should have started the interview with this, but disclosure, you guys are paying us. We're not. There's no freebies here, because I know lots of hosting companies would love to give TechCrunch free hosting. You're actually paying Rackspace for the service.
Yeah, and that's a we value what we receive, and there's a monetary attachment to that. The difference with doing barter type systems is that the whole equation of how much do they actually care changes, it shifts, because it falls back to, well,
there's real money on the line. If we don't take care of our business, we lose a paycheck.
Exactly. And
a paycheck. Right?
And so it's we're
not
paying.
To mention you piss off TechCrunch, and that's not a very smart thing to do in this business.
Well, we will always have that leverage, but it does make a big difference. We immediately saw the value. The cost to us is low compared to what it would be if we were any other business trying to do the same thing. And the flexibility afforded, the time saving afforded, makes a huge difference. It really does make a big difference. And so, we saw the value, and we pay for it.
Anything else you want to tell me about what the infrastructure is, or what it's like to work at a major tech blog and change the world and be in the middle of the Silicon Valley?
What it's like to work at a tech blog. Well, the cool thing here is
media company, really, because it's not just a blog anymore. Right?
A media company, a media empire.
Now you're talking like Mike Arrington. Where is Mike anyway?
He's texting me notes. I'm reading them from here. TechCrunch is it's really interesting because we see almost everything, and so when it comes to our own decision making, we've got the collective input of all the companies that we write about, all the people that we know, all the people that we speak to, and so that helps us make sort of more informed decisions on what we do ourselves, and that's been a great help. Like the whole hosting solution, platforms that we use and everything, all those decisions came about from things that we see every day and people that we know. It's interesting working here from a technology perspective, because the things that we work on are all cutting edge not been done before. The whole issue of new media is talked about endlessly, and it seems that there's a lot of progression, and where we are and the way that this company is being built, we're always trying out new things and being the first to do something such as advertising models, or the layout of a site, or how we distribute our content, how we find our readers, what we write about, how we bring writers on board, how that model works. And so there's been a process of trial and error at the same time. But I think building new media from this perspective is a lot easier than being somebody like News Corp or one of the big media companies trying to adapt the other way around. So we've got the flexibility of being a small company, having a relatively decent footprint, and then using the audience that we've built so far to try new things out, such as Crunchbase. And so within TechCrunch itself, it's almost like we have an incubator of sorts of mini startups where we try things out.
And you're trying out hardware now too, right?
Apparently, I read that somewhere.
You're not allowed to talk about it. Where's Mike? Mike, bring a Crunchpad out here.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where he is. It's one of those interesting things is that we can leverage the brand and the audience. Crunchbase was the first example of that. There are a couple of others of Crunchpad is one of those.
Yeah, which is a tablet PC. It's pretty cool looking.
Apparently, yeah.
I've seen one. You haven't seen one? Come on. This is why you're CTO. You can keep your mouth shut.
So the Crunchpad is, it started off as one of those ideas. It's like, wouldn't it be cool to do this? And what's even cooler is that you can have an idea like that, but then actually do it. And so the hardware game has changed from being about really big companies with really big factories to adjusting to a model where small companies can go out and prototype things and try things out and try out and see if the market's going to buy something or not with a relatively lower risk than what it was before. So 10 years ago you'd need $50 million, whereas today you can do it on a lot less, and you can use the general community to get feedback and figure out if there's a market for it. There's not much more to say about the Crunchpad other than there's
that's a different interview.
It's a project that we're working on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it uses services as well, because it's a web browser on there.
The whole idea around it is, and this sort of relates to cloud computing, is that we don't need fat desktops anymore. We just need a web browser. And what's interesting is that for the past 3-4 months, I've been trying to use just an ordinary laptop with just the web browser. And if you do that, you start realizing things that are missing or things that aren't there. And I use that process to sort of figure out if the world does move to a thin client model, or if it will move to a more thin client model, which parts of it are missing. And so if you try and force yourself to just use a browser, you start noticing things. And each one of those things is like an entire product idea that just hasn't been done yet. Very
cool. Well, thanks so much for spending a little bit of time explaining the behind the scenes at TechCrunch and talking about how the switchover went to Rackspace. And
the switchover was great.
And you have my home phone number, so let me know if anything goes wrong.
Yeah, I think.
In fact, everybody out there has my home phone number.
The good thing about being with Rackspace is that you can call Scoble at 4 a.m. and he'll fix the service for you.
Or somebody will.
Yeah, and he makes great sandwiches as well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks for that. Appreciate it.